The Saturday Vigil is over, and Easter is here, the blessing and the possibility of new life. We are also in the season of Passover, which began Wednesday night at sunset, and it's also Nowruz, Persian New Year, Ostara, an earth-centered celebration, Holi, or Holi, the Indian festival of colors, and Hala Mahalla, a Sikh day of parties and fire-breathing, and also clear winner of the competition for best holiday name, Hala Mahalla, just saying. It's also, of course, spring, as you may have noticed. And spring is at the root of all these holidays in some way. Just like Christmas, the axial tilt of the earth is the reason for the season. The flowers are blooming, the birds are singing, and honestly, there's this one cardinal, like right outside my bedroom window at the crack of dawn. I wish he would sing quieter. The bees are buzzing, and the butterflies are butterflying. The earth in the northern hemisphere is celebrating that turn from cold to warmth, from the dark to the light. The endless spiral of seasons that we engage in every year. All of nature at this season seems to be singing, just, I'm alive! It's really beautiful. We like it. My backyard is a riot of greenery. The grass is knee-high, and by grass, I mean the remains of grass and a lot of dandelion weeds. The fence at the back is just like groaning under Virginia creeper, and it is, bursting everywhere. I only have dandelion flowers, but still, they're flowers. But we can't get to that big party, the huge celebration, the warm and green and bursting at the seams of springtime without first being in the darkness and the cold. I worked for 5 years as a young person at a Lutheran church in Austin, St. Martin's. And like all church employees, I experienced Holy Week as a mad dash of preparation, followed by a grueling set of services almost daily. Beautiful, but exhausting. Holy Week also tends to happen right before final exams. So when I was in college, it was very fun. And over those 5 years, working at that church, I learned that Easter services are fine. They are good. The music is uplifting and exciting. There's often trumpets. I like bright colors. I like shiny things. It's all good. But what I really loved were the services leading up to Easter. Tenebrae, we held on Wednesday. It's a singing service. It's in the service in which the candles are extinguished one by one in a service of music and readings. And then on Maundy Thursday, Jesus gave this teaching that is pretty much the basis of all Christianity: love the good and love your neighbor. And showed that by washing feet. At the end of the Maundy Thursday story, Jesus is arrested. And in the services that I've been to, the lights go dim and the altar is stripped of all its finery. And you might think it's strange to be in a church and have it be dark and dim and literally watch the priest come out and set up a ladder and climb up on it and take down hangings, but it's not funny. There's nothing unintentional about it. It holds your attention because the story is important. Good Friday is an amazingly moving service, and it ends with Jesus' 7 last words: "My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" If you ever get a chance to go to a preaching festival, let me recommend that in Dallas-Fort Worth, there is a preaching festival every year in March and April that's called the 7 Last Words of Christ, and it is preached at Black and womanist churches all over DFW, and the sermons are fire. The Saturday Vigil is an evening service that begins in darkness, and at the end, a candle is lit to signify the coming dawn, and then each person lights their candle from that candle, and the light spreads through the church, and it is so beautiful. It's really my favorite. And after all that darkness that came before, you feel it. So That's why I like those, because then the next day is Easter, and Jesus comes back from the dead, and there's loud music, and there's shiny things and bell choirs. There are a lot of deviled eggs, and somehow there's a Easter bunny, but that's fine. It's all good, you know. It's a little heavy-handed, honestly, sometimes the Easter pageantry. I love the idea of resurrection and redemption, don't get me wrong, but lots of people only show up for Easter, and so I'm like, did you miss the point? It's like starting your experience of Star Wars with the triumphant scene that's at the end of the first one where they're all like, da, 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 and they're getting medals and they're all walking down and they look beautiful after they looked like such garbage before. And it does not mean much to see Princess Leia looking all gorgeous and hot with her hair finally out of the donuts. And if it doesn't mean that much if you weren't there when she told Darth Vader to kiss her backside while she was standing in a garbage chute. I'm just saying. You like it better when she's all dressed up, when you know that she has better aim than Han Solo with a blaster. And when she basically saves the universe. I guess those other people had something to do with it, but let's face it, Leia's the real hero. We all know it. So, having fulfilled my contractual obligations to bring nerd culture into services, I can get to why we're all really here. And the real reason is butterflies. I titled this Fools for Hope. I want to talk for a second about butterflies. They're fascinating. They're weird. This is a monarch, and it's, little caterpillar form, and then the adult form. You know what? When a caterpillar goes and it builds its little cocoon and it gets in there, I don't know if they know what's coming. But you know what happens? They turn to mush. It's just a mass of sort of undifferentiated cells in there. It's kind of gross and weird. And then, like, genetics and nature kind of start ticking along with time, and the little things signal each other, and they begin to assemble something new. And, I mean, how different is it? If you're a caterpillar, what is that thing? And if you're a butterfly, you're like, oh, you guys are fat and slow. But we're one and the same. And how crazy is it? Like, what kind of nutball just goes, yeah, I'm just going to make my own nest and get in it and decompose and hope for the best. I mean, it pays off, let's be real. But still, like, that's crazy. That is some holy foolishness. So, when we are trying to pick what we're going to hope for, we humans, it's hard to have that kind of faith. And we tend to be a little, should we all go into the pods and decompose and turn into butterflies? I don't know. Why don't you go first? We're going to watch and see how you do that. And that's fine, because, it's scary to transform. It's scary to be foolish. And so we know that. And sometimes we're fearful. We look around us and we saw all the caterpillars and they're just working so hard. And we're like, what are you working for? What are you trying to do? Well, they can't tell us. And sometimes they're just working for nothing. They're working to be Robin food. And then I want to just stay over here and just kind of, you go try first, right? The thing is, caterpillars don't know they're going to be butterflies when they come out, I assume. No. And we don't really know what we will transform into, but we want to. We want to know. We don't want to make that decision uninformed. We want to know if we're striving for something that is beautiful and meaningful and worthy, or if we're just like striving for, the best air fryer on the market and the fastest car and who has most stuff before they die and if I don't get these bills paid. If that's what we're striving for, that seems pretty empty if you're looking for your spiritual meaning there, right? And so what would it mean to be willing to be holy fools? To be willing to say, we are Unitarian Universalists and we know what we're striving for. We want to answer the call of the future and we want to hear the realities of the history of the past. We're here for all of that. But we don't know what we're going to transform into. It's still scary. But here's what I'm saying. if you could be a holy fool, if you could go into the process, not sure what was going to happen on the other side of it, but knowing that you are drawn forward by the most powerful call there is, the call of love, could you jump in a little? Would you be willing to be a little foolish? Flower communion reminds us that the journey of the caterpillar and the journey of the seed to the flower and the journey of Jesus to the cross, these are the only journeys, the only destination we know about is the journey. I mean, when Jesus died, nobody went, well, I guess he'll be back in 3 days. We can stop worrying. And I don't think we're going to get much of a 3-day reprieve, or at least I'm not. And so the only destination we have is the road that we're on. That is our destination. And so I don't think the caterpillar asks itself, what am I going to transform into? I think it is called to it desperately by need. And I think that we don't have to know what we will become when we're a little seed or when we're a little caterpillar. But we can, if we're listening closely and we're hearing the real call of love that connects us to one another, to nature, to this season, that's a holy foolishness I can get behind. That's a holy foolishness that will take us to some new places. The holy fool, since I called it that, Fools for Hope, it's an image that you've seen in the tarot deck, you know, the little guy running along and the dog's nipping at his backside. And it's an image that has fed our myths and our mythology for as long as humans have been around. So the holy fool is the odd one, and the one that stands out a little and isn't quite in step, and the awkward one. But beneath that quirky exterior, or perhaps because of it, the holy fool does have wisdom to impart. And so I'm looking at these caterpillars, these crazy holy fools, and thinking, what is your wisdom? And I look at the flowers and I think, what is yours? And then I look at a caterpillar and a butterfly, and I look at a seed and a flower. And I realize I don't know. And I won't know. And I won't know where my own transformation is taking me or what I am becoming. All I know is I have the journey. I have the road. And that each step I take, or, crawling, wheeling, rolling, creeping like a caterpillar, fluttering like a butterfly, I have to make those decisions based on that call of love. And that will keep me on the road. So, the holy fool. A few holy fools: Mahatma Gandhi starving himself for the freedom of his people, Martin Luther King walking across the bridge at Selma, Maya Angelou reading her poems at presidential inaugurations, Alice Walker, whose character Shug in The Color Purple says, we don't find God in church, we bring God with us, and church is wherever we make it. In our own faith movement, Norbert Chopik was a holy fool. Also think of the Waitstills, smuggling children out of Nazi-occupied territory, Theodore Parker, Louisa May Alcott, others who worked for abolition and women's rights. Well, some women's rights, let's be real. We're catching up. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Margaret Fuller, Henry David Thoreau, they were a bunch of weirdos. They were sitting in nature and thinking about God and flowers and caterpillars and ethics and philosophy and the universe. Everyone here has the capacity for holy foolishness. I hope that you have experienced a little holy foolishness in your life, and if you haven't, it's never too late. And I tend to think or hope that if you've come through the doors, maybe you're a little more in tune with that. Maybe you're a little more willing to be a little bit of a holy fool. And so we come together to work, we come together to play and to laugh, to worship, which means to lift up that which is worthy. We come together to grieve and speak eulogies, to celebrate weddings and births, the lifting up of that which is good and true and worthy, and to believe in the work and the play, and to believe that we can, in fact, make the world a more just and loving place. It's folly. It's foolishness. but it is the most holy foolishness. And it's very freeing to be a holy fool. It is liberating to accept your own ridiculosity. Once words, right? Once you've admitted that you're willing, or perhaps even irresistibly called to be a complete idiot for love, then you've accepted your mission from God, and there's nothing left but a police chase across Chicago and some angry, supportive nuns. And if you haven't watched the Blues Brothers, I'm very sorry. So, what I'm asking you today is consider, how much of a fool are you willing to be for hope and for love? How much of a fool are we willing to be for our UU values that we speak in covenant and hold so carefully? The foolishness is needed takes many forms. Sometimes we need the divine madness as you stand before a line of people who are holding brutal weapons, and you have a sign in your hand asking for peace and safety and rationality. Sometimes divine madness comes to you when you're standing in front of another person and you look into their eyes and you say, I love you. Sometimes the divine madness shows up and you start a committee, because we're UUs. And you say, the Texas UU Justice Ministry is going to do some stuff and we're going to do it too. That's foolishness, but we're going to do it. And sometimes holy foolishness is just plain fun, but not always. Jesus' foolishness was not fun there at the end. And sometimes divine holy foolishness makes you confront police dogs and fire hoses and domestic terrorism as you seek to be recognized as human. Sometimes the divine madness leads you to the pure, true happiness of being yourself, male or female or neither or both, everything and new things, and being public about that. And holy it is, yes, but it's also dangerous and possibly foolish. And yet, it takes all kinds of holy fools to do this work and this play, the healing and the being healed. Sometimes you're just awkward and quirky and weird, and that foolishness is enough. It's what you need, and it's what the world needs. But there are other follies that are bigger and grander, scarier, more deeply ridiculous, holy and mad. What is your folly? What would you give up for it? What could we do if we embodied and combined holy foolishness and set it free upon this broken and bleeding and rich and divine community that is our earth, our nation, our neighborhood, this beloved community, and our families? What could we do? I think we should just go out and find out and be holy fools together. Amen.